We're getting back on track here with Kathryn and Emily, but as you know, we won't stay there for long because this is the Going Off Track podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Going Off Track podcast. I'm Kathryn, that's Emily, and we are going to the jewel of the Formula One season, the weirdest race on the calendar. We're going to Monaco.
Yay! No, I'm excited. I love Monaco. We've always talked about this. I'm a little sour and salty that it's not a sprint race. Still waiting for this to...
Stefano, just listen to us. It will work really well.
I know. Honestly, I can't stop thinking about it ever since I came up with this brilliant idea. But no, I like this one. There's a lot of glitz and glam. The Cannes Music Festival. Oh my gosh, sleep.
Movie
festival is happening super close to Monaco. And so there's a ton of, celebrity royalty in town for that. They also generally jump over to do Monaco. A lot of the drivers live in Monaco. So yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the whole weekend in general, even if the race isn't like a banger, which it might be this year, and we'll talk about the pit stop thing in a little bit, but like the whole weekend just kind of makes it worth it.
Yeah, it's just like, a ton of money being thrown around in one small little country for 3 days. Why wouldn't that be exciting to see all the yachts and the parties, and it's wild. I love the fashion. I feel like everyone brings it from Monaco, so
Lewis has typically absolutely brought it.
Sweater. I'm so excited to see what we get this year.
Yeah, if you missed it last year, he showed up on his water taxi in this like thin, fuzzy, light purple sweater that only someone like Lewis Hamilton could pull off, and it like enough said. Just look it up. Google.
Can you imagine if like Yuki wore something like that? We'd all be like, Yuki, are you okay?
Okay.
Oh my god. No, I'm excited. I'm excited for the weekend festivities. I'm not exactly excited for the race. I'm over the moon jazzed about qualifying. Like,
yes,
that's what I'm excited about. But yeah.
Well, before we dive into the Monaco of it all, now we're recording this on Tuesday. So if there's any more news that comes out before our episode drops on Thursday, we will tackle that in our reaction episode. But scheduling wise, we are recording today. So as of today, there have been a couple of things in the news. Number one is Alpine trying to dig themselves out of drama of their own making, which we are not going to discuss today because we have discussed Alpine plenty the last couple of episodes. And quite frankly, I don't have the mental capacity for it.
And I just don't care.
And Emily doesn't care.
Moving on to something I do really, really care about is corporate sponsorships. So yes. I don't know why I'm so passionate about this. I just love how strategic F1 is with sponsors to draw in the crowd, the guys. They announced with Romain Grosjean, which was really interesting. But F1 came out and announced that they have a new strategic partnership with Disney. So this won't be happening anytime this year. It'll start in 2026. But it should be really cool. So it's a collaboration between F1 and then Mickey and Friends, really trying to get at the younger audience, which I think is cool. There's a lot of people following F1, I would say in our age range, especially watching Drive to Survive, but really trying to get the younger kids' attention, which I think is an interesting grab just because F1 is such an expensive sport and there is a barrier to entry. It's not like MLB, right? Going to a baseball game, you can generally get a ticket for $20.
Right.
There's no shot you can go to a race for $20 unless you know someone. So I just think it's interesting that they're targeting a younger demographic, but I don't think it's a bad choice. It's just interesting.
No, I mean, and definitely it goes into this whole Drive to Survive era of F1 growth, especially in the United States. They said in one of the press releases that there's about 4 million children that follow Formula One from the ages of 8 to 12 in the EU and the United States, and that number is only growing. And these are people who also tend to gravitate towards Disney and Marvel and whatever young children ages 8 through 12 watch these days, which I will learn more of when I head to camp this summer. I have very little concept, but also it's households where like mom and dad are watching Drive to Survive. Oh, vroom car, go fast. I'm going to sit with mom and dad and watch with them. Like growing up, dad watched Star Trek. I watched Star Trek with my dad, and it's basically the same thing except cars and real.
And it kind of, like, to me, I can see them replicating kind of what the NFL is doing with Nickelodeon, where they have, like, the slime stuff going on, and it's more, like, catered, and the commentary is definitely catered towards kids.
Already have the kids cast a couple times a year, so I can see this definitely being a kids cast, also featuring, like, the Disney animation, Disney characters, the voice of Mickey Mouse, and, announcing it's lights out, things like that.
Yeah, and like, I mean, ESPN is owned by Disney. Like, that's it's part of the family. So obviously that makes sense. ESPN has the broadcasting rights in the U.S. Which the Sky Sports broadcast.
But actually, that you bring that up really quick. Their contract is ending, and so this could be a signal that they will be signing a new contract with Disney, with ESPN, to stay instead of going to some of the other options, which I think are more prohibitive to growth, like Netflix and Amazon Prime and things like that, which I would not want.
No, and because they have, like, Disney's the parent company, ESPN Plus can do their own kids broadcast every week, instead of having it like here or there. They can do their own fun thing with Mickey and friends being the commentators or whatever kid things they want to put on. But I think it makes sense. I mean, compared to other children's programming, Disney is by far the most recognizable brand worldwide.
And just think of like the merch collaborations.
Exactly.
Like little boys are gonna be all over this, and you can even like tie in the F1 Academy, and anything that's like pink and purple and pretty little girls are gonna be all over it generally.
Well, and so also don't forget about us Disney adults who are really also excited about this. But no, the opportunities are endless here. I think it's very smart. I do think it's really interesting. Also, everything's interesting today. F1 has really made a lot of strides with their corporate sponsorships this year. So the LVMH group came in and took over like a bunch of the big ticket items. So like Louis Vuitton is everywhere. Rolex left as the timekeeper, and now the official one is
Tag.
Tag, thank you, who was part of that family. Still waiting for a Fenty collab somewhere in F1. I thought we'd get it in Miami, but we didn't. But then the PwC thing that was announced, Disney's announced now. So they're really, really making an effort to grow the product.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is especially perfect for making more inroads with the youth of motorsport in the United States, because the United States does have, a moderately healthy track of driving in different, levels of motorsport, not as big as Europe and the European karting scene, but it's not nothing. We obviously see the likes of Chloe Chambers and Leah Block in the F1 Academy, who did grow up in the United States side of things. So this is really getting more little children involved in and excited about motorsport. I have a good friend who lives back east, and her son has been, bugging her to go to an F1 race one of these days. And she's like, I think he's a little too young now, but, next year, maybe the year after. And this is all just going toward getting children's awareness of Formula One. Like, I didn't know what Formula One didn't exist to me when I was 8 years old. It didn't exist to me until I was 31 years old. Wow, age 31. Yeah.
And I think another like group that we're not necessarily highlighting is Asia, right? So Disney has, I believe, 3 parks in Asia: Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong.
Yes, I believe so.
I think that's what it is. So Disney's huge in Asia. There's so many people in Asia. I think this is also, pulling at that. It's not just the kids in the US or the EU. I think it's also, Disney's so universal. Every kid loves Disney. When I was in Argentina, all people wanted to do was go to Disney. So I think it's really cool, very interesting. It's a huge brand, very recognizable brand. And I'll be interested to see like where it goes.
Yeah. And I was just like, looking at the announcement, first of all, they had like a Disney and Friends branded car. Romain Grosjean was there for the announcement. Obviously, he's a former Formula One driver. I think the only reason why he was there is he lives in Florida, because that's where he moved to after joining IndyCar, and all the other actual active Formula One drivers are in Europe.
Monaco.
Or well, they're all in Monaco,
doesn't he?
And he has kids. I would assume that they're there. I think he has 3.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think he has 3 kids.
But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that of all of the personalities, and obviously he's a big name because of the 2020 crash that he survived. But
poor guy, just famous because
he just
was on fire
for being a phoenix. I thought that was like it was an interesting choice, interesting timing, because like why didn't they announce it at Miami? Miami's not Orlando,
I know, especially I don't know. It's whatever. I guess just because it's not like happening this year.
Yeah, because this is a next year problem. Like the podcast that only speaks of the future, which we haven't done as much this year going into next year.
The only thing I could think of is potentially generally early May, which is when Miami is when you have like your proxy meetings and stuff and shareholders meetings. So maybe it was going to a vote or they hadn't yet decided. So I can see that maybe delaying the announcement. I believe Disney's a 12/31 year end, which would make that be like their Q1 filing. But what do I know?
You would know better than I do.
Actually, I could find out really easily, but I don't feel like it.
That's okay.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, that's exciting. New corporate sponsorship. We can talk contracts and sponsorships all day, but we won't. So something else, literally we are screaming bottom of the barrel because we just recorded and there's nothing going on. My third favorite topic is approval of artwork and design. I've said it once, I'll say it again. 1,000 people have to approve things that happen within F1. And somehow Ferrari just continues to shock us. And
not in a good way.
Yeah, and not in a good way. So Charles Leclerc, who won last year at Monaco, one of the first Monegas drivers to win.
The first broke Monegas, the curse, et cetera. Yeah.
He will have a special race suit this weekend. And if you're thinking, how cool, it'll honor Monaco, his home country, his win. It'll be, red and white, just like Ferrari. Like, how cool? Yeah, that would be cool, except that's not what happened. So we get an uncomfortably, awkwardly close replica of the Williams race suit for Charles Leclerc. But if you're thinking, oh, that's fine, Charles and Lewis, it is what it is, HP. Oh, but that's also where you're wrong, because Lewis is not wearing the race suit. It's only Charles.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I have seen, it is only Charles wearing this special race suit.
Leave it to Ferrari to do it that way.
Leave it, but it's like, it's white for Monaco, but blue for HP. And I was telling you right before we started recording that like every bad livery and race suit and merch decision for Ferrari this past year has become because of HP. Yeah, everything about it is HP weaseling their way in and like destroying Ferrari brand standards. And we talked about this going into Miami when we were freaking out about the blue car because it wasn't a blue car, it was a blue fume hood. But
it was a travesty is what it was, Kathryn.
But I love the jokes that they're like, so he misses Carlos so much that he's wearing a white race suit so that maybe like Williams will take him home after the race and he won't have to deal with the Ferrari crisis anymore.
It's so bad. Yeah, he's like willing to change teams, racing for Ferrari, but really for Williams just because the car is, I can't. Ferrari is just killing me.
Yeah,
absolutely killing me.
Hopefully this is the only thing and it's just funny little white race suit, but it's the regular red car that is not really a great red car because there's too much white on it.
But we also know the white race suits aren't great.
They're not my favorite.
I will say though, the Williams one, it's not stark white. It's definitely like a little off white. The Williams race suits are not bad, but when anyone else has tried to attempt, they're horrible.
even like the Mercedes was a white race suit team. Dinner time for Bishop. They were a white race suit team for a while, and when they moved to black, it's like thank goodness they moved to black, because those white and like race suits aren't supposed to look normal when you're standing up out of the car. Like they're baggy in the back because with the way that the drivers sit in the cars, that's how it like
they need to be able
fits
to move
their bodies, and how it shifts around them while like not going all the way up their ankles and exposing their feet. But it's there's a reason why my signature color is black.
It's bad. Okay. Well, like we said, that's literally all we have for Monaco. So 25 Monaco is going to be very different than any other year at Monaco, and I'm very, very excited, and I hope it brings a more exciting race. So what are the changes? They are mandating pit stops. So in every race, you generally have to have so many tires, right? So 2 different compounds.
In a wet or in dry conditions, you have to run 2 separate compounds, and
which logically forces you to have 1 pit stop.
Right. So it's not like you can do a hard tire and then pit stop to another hard tire. You have to have a hard tire and pit to a medium or pit to a soft, or any other of the myriad of tire combinations that there are. But what that leads to in Monaco, because Monaco is so hard to overtake, is basically a parade. Especially if you have what happened last year where there's a crash in the first lap, everybody pits, and then you just go to the end.
Right. So what they're doing this year to update that and hopefully prevent that is forcing teams to have a little bit more strategy. So if this is a dry race, if it's wet, it'll be different. But if this is a dry race, they're mandating 2 pit stops.
Which they are also mandating in wet conditions, if it is wet.
Right, but not changing compounds.
Correct. But so no matter, it's probably going to be dry, but no matter what, it will be a 2-stop race.
Correct.
Minimum.
Which is going to be interesting. I think, like, if someone remotely has, like, an oops, there's a safety car. Because there is nowhere to go. They have to get the cranes in. It's a whole thing. Automatic safety car. So I think,
or even a red flag.
That's very true. So I think that will really be interesting on how you play this. Like, do you wait it out? Do you just go right away? Do you hope for a safety car? I really think the strategy is going to be all over the place across all the teams.
So I think the strategy really will depend on how qualifying goes, because qualifying on Saturday, it's Tuesday right now, so obviously the weather forecast will change, but right now there's a 35% chance of rain around the time of qualifying on Saturday, which could send everything into an absolute tailspin, because you know that there are cars that qualify better in the rain than they do in the dry. But the concern that people have with this new 2 pit stop, a gimmick, we can call it that, is lights out and away we go, straight into the pit lane, do your first pit stop, go out
for a safety car.
Well, but then you go out, you pit again, and then you have your second pit stop. You knock them out in the first 2 laps, and then you go to the end. That would be probably something that is available to teams, but also would probably be very, very boring. And I can only hope that it's not something like that, and that they actually do employ some sort of strategy that is, you go a certain length and then you pit and then you go again. So, and then you pit again. So it could be interesting. It could lead to drama.
Because generally you have like 2 strategies, right? You'll go from like soft to hard, or you'll do hard, medium. Like races generally have their pit windows, let's say.
Yeah.
And maybe a third does one, a third does the other, and then the third doesn't know what they're doing. Ferrari. But I think it'll be interesting, especially because Monaco has such a narrow pit lane. It could be chaos. There could be a lot of traffic. We've already seen several unsafe releases. I don't know. I think it's going to cause a lot of chaos. I hope it causes good chaos. Meaning like movement, not bad chaos of like accidents and things like that. We never hope for that, but
yeah, the avoidable types of accidents that are usually involved in things like unsafe release issues,
right.
like things like that. So it could be interesting. I like that they're trying to do something to make Monaco feel less like a parade, because Monaco has like a half of a part of a turn where you can overtake, and that's kind of it, and you get more overtakes in the back because everyone else is just kind of going gone. So I like that they're trying to find a way to validate Monaco's place on the F1 calendar, because like we've been talking about Imola, it's like, you know, F1 has outgrown Imola, F1 has physically outgrown Monaco, but it's Monaco.
Right, there's so much money, and this race is like the only one that ESPN televised or is like excited
Cares
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see how you can get rid of Monaco. And I think I was reading an article they were interviewing team principals, and they're like, you can't have F1 without Monaco. So like, what do we do? And they're like, we appreciate that F1 and FIA are coming up with innovative solutions on how we can keep it exciting, because it's not exciting for it to be a parade. Like, everyone recognizes that, from you know, the casual fan to a team principal. So just the fact that they're putting in effort to make it exciting and to do something makes me very hopeful that they'll make it a sprint weekend.
I'm sure that like Mr. Stefano Domenicali, who is like Mr. 24 sprint weekends in a 24 race calendar, would
He's
love
chomping at the bit to make this a sprint race.
Please try it, Stefano. Like, do it for the new regulation. You'll have smaller cars. It'll all be weird. Why not?
Exactly. But yeah, so
one of these days we're gonna be right.
Should be interesting. I have high hopes, but I think I might be glass too half full.
I am cautiously optimistic, and I mean, my standards for like good sports, depending on the time of year, are really high or really low. And considering I am sitting and watching Big Ten baseball championship pool play, like, they're really low right now. So Monaco could not be coming at a better time.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. Unfortunately, I'll be traveling to a different time zone this weekend, so I have to watch a really early race.
Welcome to my
life. But it's okay. I'll make up for it in Spain when I travel to the East Coast, and it is a lot later.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's get into our predictions. Also, this episode is going to be like the shortest episode we've ever done. You're welcome, everybody.
Literally.
Okay, so Kathryn and I pick pole, podium, and P10. We give ourselves points. It's much harder than you think. We, implore you to pick along with us. As a reminder, we do have guest pickers now. This is something that we're doing for funsies. So make sure that you send us your guest pick. You can do pole, podium, and P10. Just do podium, just do P10, just do pole, whatever you want. Send it to us in our DMs on Instagram, going.off.track. And maybe if you're lucky, we will air your predictions. And yes, we will be making fun of people who pick absolutely horrible ones. So share with caution.
Anyways. No, just share anyway.
I'm kidding.
We listen, but we don't judge.
You can't get worse than us. That's basically what I'm saying. Okay, so Kathryn, who is your Monaco pole sitter?
In continuing in the tradition of the fastest car on track, I'm going with Oscar.
Yep, I have Oscar as well. So yep. Cool. Podium. I hate myself for my podium. That's okay. Give me your podium first.
I mean, my podium is, I think, like the same podiums that I've gone with lately. I'm going Oscar, Max, Lando.
Okay, so that's really interesting, because I actually did a lot of research on this, because I think qualifying 100% determines the race.
Yes.
Do you know who's qualified in P3 more than anyone on the grid?
Who?
George Russell.
So you're going with George.
Again, but here I am. Yes, I have Oscar, Max, Princess
and George.
So
okay.
Hate myself, but I had to do it.
All right.
And then we also pick P10, which is the last position on the grid, where you get a point. You get 1 point for P10. We give ourselves 3 because it's very, very hard. Kathryn, who is your P10 pick?
I am going with Yuki. I feel like that's where Yuki has been lately. Obviously, that's where he finished in Imola. So I'm just gonna shoot for he'll probably be in that vicinity anyway.
Yeah, so I went back and forth on this one again, looking at historic qualifying. I was between Yuki, Isaac, and who I ended up picking, and I still am super uncomfy. I have Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
So I don't love that for him or for Ferrari, but I just feel like how they're qualifying right now, they're not going to qualify high. I do not think Monaco is going to be good for them this year. We've talked about it before. They can't qualify. They do have long distance race pace, but they don't have one lap race pace. So
yeah, their ability to overcome their awful qualifying in Imola is probably not going to happen here in Monaco, just by virtue of the fact that this track is impossible unless we have something real weird happen.
Well, and then you throw in like them needing to update their strategy. Like I know they're just gonna bin it. Like they're not gonna do that very well. They're
gonna be strategy?
Like, oh, we have the perfect idea, and then it's gonna be like, oh wait, we lost our lead strategist because he moved to Williams and is now driving at Williams. So what do we do? Yeah, I just think it's brutal.
It's like that line in the newest F1 movie trailer where I think it's Brad Pitt's character. It says like, "Hope is not a strategy," and I was sitting there, and I'm just like, "What do you mean it's not?" Like that's that. I think that Ferrari could probably try just hoping and praying.
So annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So then we also pick our biggest surprise of the weekend and who's going to do a dump. So my biggest surprise of the weekend, even though I'm flipping on this back and forth, but I think 2 pit stops potentially fixes Monaco.
That is also my biggest surprise. Yeah. I really want it to, and I want teams to attempt 2-stop strategies in good faith.
Yeah, agreed. I hope they don't take advantage of it and they just do 2 back-to-back like you said. I hope they like actually do it as a race pit, but we'll see. Okay, and then who's gonna do a dumb for you this weekend, Kathryn?
My dumb of the weekend is Ferrari, and I just like we've said, I just feel like A, they've already done it with Charles's race suit, but B, I just don't think that they're going to be able to come out of this weekend it positively by virtue of the issues that they have with the car, combined with their qualifying problems, combined with the fact that this is Monaco. And the fact that, like, the curse, like, he might have, like, Charles might have broken the curse, but I don't think the curse is gone.
No, and, I mean, Ferrari's such an easy target, but I do feel like we're really hard on Ferrari because
they have such high expectations.
There are teams that are really sucking this year, and Ferrari's
but, like what's the point of us saying that steak is the dumb? Because, like...
That's their norm.
They're just in the back, and they almost sniffed points in Imola, but...
No, like, it's so bad.
But Bortoletto didn't. It was all Hulk. Like, Hulk can only do so much.
Yeah, but anyways, so I got more granular with my oops. So I said Charles Leclerc.
Okay.
I just think coming off of the win last year, he's just not gonna. He's gonna struggle with qualifying. Then he's gonna be mad and frustrated, and I just don't think that's gonna end well for him. So.
So unfortunate, but at least he did get to win there once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have Monaco, the crown jewel of F1, 2 pit stops. Should be a great race. Hoping for a great race. If it's still boring, I will eat my shorts and I will be so upset. But
yeah,
what do you?
But I mean, the potential for rain, like a wet qualifying, is just going to make things interesting in general, and
especially because like the setup has to change if there's
rain. So it's like how do you balance sacrificing your quality pace for race pace on a track that you can't overtake and you have to be fast?
Yeah.
But then if you set yourself up for wet and you know it's going to be dry, then you're going to, like, no matter what, you're going to be overtaken anyway. So there's so many questions, and I am so glad that I am not a race strategist because I don't know how they do it.
I don't either. Well, before we end the pod, Kathryn, we need your fun fact. So what is your F1 fun fact for us for Monaco weekend?
So I've got a pretty big one, and there have only been 10 races in Monaco since 1950, the first year of Formula One, where a driver has won the race in Monaco starting lower than P3. And that's how difficult it is to do Monaco if you qualify badly.
Okay, so follow-up question here. So
yes.
When was the last time that happened?
I'm so glad you asked.
That was not prompted. I'm just very curious.
So the last time it happened, this is actually this is a race that we should do an F101 about.
Okay.
Because the last time this happened was 1996. Olivier Panis, he started P14. And the reason why he ended up winning the race from P14 is because he survived the biggest race of attrition in the history of Formula One. This race holds the F1 record for fewest finishers at 3 of 22 race starters.
That's worse when all the tires were falling off.
There were only 6 finishers in that race in 2005.
What the hell happened? Was there big crash?
It was wet. I think it was a wet weather race that nobody expected. God. The rainstorm just came in and surprised everybody. But yeah, it was Panis P1, it was David Coulthard P2, and Johnny Herbert P3. Some notable DNFs from that race. I'm not going to list all of them, but some notable ones.
Was one of them Fernando Alonso?
No.
Checks out to be driving for that long.
No, because this was 1996, but it was the likes of Mika Hakkinen, Eddie Irvine, who just passed away earlier this year, Jacques Villeneuve, Damon Hill, our favorite Martin Brundle, Michael Schumacher crashed out, Rubens Barrichello crashed out.
Oh my God.
Jos Verstappen crashed out. Like, all of these names that we've thrown out in our genealogy series were basically all people who were in this race who all either DNF'd or withdrew. And it got to the point where the point scores, I think, went down to P8, and everyone P4 through P8, those 5 drivers were drivers that did not finish the race, but
they
still got points. Yeah.
Weird.
That was the rules back then. And it was one of those things where, like, if you finish 75% of the race, you will still be classified as a finisher, whereas and I guess they gave them points even though they didn't finish.
Well,
yes.
Interesting. So since 1996 and an extreme circumstance, it hasn't happened, which isn't surprising.
Yeah, no, and I mean, considering this is probably going to be a drier race, which typically Monaco is like a crapshoot of whether the race is going to be dry or not. I think that this is, I mean, it always goes down to qualifying, but it's really going to go down to qualifying, especially if the qualifying is wet.
Yeah.
Or damp.
All right. Well, with that,
this might be our shortest predictions episode
ever. You are so welcome. So we will have our Monaco recap episode out on Monday. That is the pod. Thanks for going off track with us, guys.